In keeping with the theme of pharmaceutical, our next panel discussion is entitled Prescribing Blockchain for Clinical Trials. It's an on-stage interview, Fighting Counterfeits in the Pharma Supply Chain. Our moderator is Dr. Robert M. Learney. He is the lead technologist for blockchain and DLT at Digital Catapult. His claim to fame is he is the co-founder of the Imperial College Center for Cryptocurrency Research and Engineering, improving UK's economic position. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Learney. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a bit strange because I've got to talk into this microphone and hear myself in these headphones, so bear with me a little bit. I hope this turns out to be an interesting panel. We're going to be talking about a logistical issue. Wow, that guy's loud. We're going to be talking about the logistics of the pharmaceutical supply chain and improving its security and track and trace capabilities using blockchain. So to join me on stage, I'd like to welcome Jose Fernandez of Do, who I will ask to introduce himself shortly, and Emmanuel Fombu, who you've just met in the previous panel from Johnson & Johnson. Thank you very much. So gentlemen, could I ask you briefly to introduce yourselves? Sure. So I'm going to stand here so I can see you. I can't hear you.
Is it on? You can now?
I can now.
Okay, perfect.
Can everyone hear him okay?
Can you hear me?
Yeah?
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you. So thank you, Robert.
Jose,
yes,
please tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us why Do is interested in pharmaceutical logistics.
Sure. I get that question a lot. Why Do in blockchain landscape? But my name is Jose Fernandez. I'm director for new emerging technologies within Do. Good question. Why Do? What we're doing here, right? We have a big presence. We're in a number of panels. Our CEO was speaking this morning. What are we actually doing on blockchain? Let me start by saying today the digital world has more interactions than the actual physical world. This is really changing the way we communicate, we interact with each other, the way we live. This is creating a tsunami of data, and this tsunami of data is increasing and growing every single day. Just like any other emerging technology, blockchain relies on connectivity. And we as telcos, we do have the infrastructure that is needed for blockchain to scale. We also have the knowledge and the experience to manage large amount of data, guaranteeing the right level of privacy. And more importantly, we do have the strong relationship with the customers and a strong and large partner ecosystem. And I want to highlight ecosystem because for me, blockchain is a team effort. For any project, any POC in the blockchain space, the ecosystem needs to be strong enough to support it. Blockchain is still at a very early stage, and it's very rare that, like any other emerging technology, it's very rare that one company can deliver an end-to-end solution. You need to have those strong in-house capabilities, but still you need to have even stronger partner ecosystem because you need to understand user behavior. You need to understand what really value added means. You need to understand market dynamics. You need to understand multiple use cases in several industries that which might not be your expertise. So our strategy is a mix of both. We do invest in internal capabilities, strong internal capabilities, but more importantly, we are developing this partner ecosystem. Many of those partners are here today with us. And again, we want to be the enabler of those ecosystems to blockchain to succeed.
Thank you very much. I'll turn to you now, Emmanuel. It almost sounds silly for me to have to ask, why does Johnson & Johnson care about pharmaceuticals and pharmaceutical supply chain? But because you're here, I'm going to ask the question anyway. What is it that you think are the key issues for Johnson & Johnson in the pharma supply chain that you want to address?
We are very concerned about drug pricing, right? So in the US, drugs are pretty expensive. In Canada, they're kind of cheap, so people buy drugs on the internet and the drugs get shipped over, right? If you go down to Nigeria, for example, China, we have intellectual property protection, right? So we go to certain countries and you don't know if the drug is actual legal drug or is it the real thing or is it fake or is it half and half? Everyone has that concern. So We use blockchain to actually track the drug from when it leaves the manufacturing process all the way down to someone, right? We get to the patient. Well, for two things. One, it's safe for the patient to actually get it, and then two, we're also ensuring that someone is not stealing our intellectual property and then giving the drugs out. So for us, that's very helpful.
Okay, so it's about patient safety, it's about pricing, it's about protecting your intellectual property?
And money, yes.
Okay.
Safety and money.
Okay. Can I ask, how far along are both of you, both Do and Johnson & Johnson, in deploying blockchain solutions for pharmaceutical logistics?
Okay, to answer that question, I need to start by saying, like, we are in Dubai, and clearly, globally, there is no other blockchain initiative as ambitious and with the level of impact that might happen in Dubai. So that's clear. They have the vision and the blockchain strategy is there. Great work done by the government entities here. I proudly say that in Do, we started our blockchain journey quite early compared with other companies in the UAE. Back in late 2016 with the Global Blockchain Council, we were founding members of the Global Blockchain Council. We participated in a number of POCs from trade logistics to tourism. But it was about that at the same time, early 2017, when we had our first blockchain healthcare related project with a POC called Secure Electronic Healthcare Record. For that project, we partnered with NMC Hospitals as a healthcare provider, and with Gartime, which is a leading engineer blockchain company, which also the first one implemented blockchain electronic healthcare records nationwide in Estonia. We faced a lot of challenges, of course. It was early in the game. It's still early in the game, but we learned a lot. And the important thing was just the beginning. Since then, we've been working really hard trying to find our positioning within the value chain, where we can really, as a telco, bring value into the equation. Last year, during GITEX in October, we announced the launch of our blockchain platform as a service, which will be available by the end of H1 2019. This will be the first locally hosted blockchain platform as a service in the UAE, and which we are developing in partnership with Consensus. Okay. At the end, what we're trying to bring is a shared environment, which is not only the infrastructure itself, but also the functionalities and capabilities needed for those POC pilots and production systems to go live. We're trying to make things easy for our customers. We're trying to bring all the tools and all the foundations so they can really focus on the use case definition and the application development, which is actually where they can bring value to their own customers. Healthcare has been there since then, and for us it's a key vertical. Not only because we feel that it's really close to us, to all of us, to our families, but also we acknowledge that it has one of the most complex ecosystems. One of the most complex ecosystems, but also one that lacks in trust in many places. And clearly blockchain can bring that trust component into the table. Just last month we announced our first blockchain use case, patient safety, built on top of the blockchain platform as a service. We partner with Donor Technology. What we're doing is tracing of pharmaceutical products and blood bags throughout the supply chain. So our customer will have full visibility, especially the patient. We want to give power to the patient. We want to keep patient-centric solutions.
If I could drill into that one use case a little more on blood bag track and trace. Is this a live system today, or is this something where it's close to deployment?
Okay, it's close to deployment. It's close to deployment. We're working right now. Again, our blockchain platform as a service will be available by the end of H1. We are working in some specific POCs already for some government entities in the UAE, some specific clients. And but yes, it's in POC phase right now. But we hope it will be live by the end of H1.
Thank you. Emmanuel, I know that in the previous panel you were quite interested and passionate about improving clinical trials using blockchain. Can I ask where Johnson & Johnson is in its journey for improving logistics using blockchain? Are these real deployed systems that you have today to improve these aspects of pharma that you've been talking about? Or are these near to deployment, or whereabouts are they?
So we've deployed a couple of things. So in my role is global. So I do projects anywhere in Asia to Middle East to North Africa or South America and the US. And it's very interesting because for the last year I've been meeting with a lot of telephone companies, actually, like randomly, right? They reach out to me, and Telefonica, NTT out of Japan, and I was wondering why telephone companies are interested in talking to me, right? Then I found out that I'm sure you guys are doing the same, right? Where they're investing heavily in innovation and they have the techniques and the skills, right, that is needed. And it took me about 5 meetings to actually understand exactly what they really wanted, right, to get done. So I'm open up to a partnership. I know during the last break I had discussions with some great doctors here that are based in Dubai, for example, right? And you are here. So I'm open to a partnership. We could do a partnership together, and I'm ready to come in and let's do something. You know what I mean? It stays open. Let's do it. Let's not.
So this is a very important piece to pick out. It's about building infrastructure. It's about deploying common infrastructure among different parties. And that's obviously what you're asking the audience to join you with today.
The biggest challenge is finding health systems that are open to do this, right? That's a big challenge. Yeah. And so I think just within like the last couple of minutes, I think I found like a couple of partners. So I think we could do business. Why not?
So who do you see in a pharmaceutical logistics solution are the key stakeholders that need to sit around the table before you can deploy a common solution or a common architecture?
I think I need him, I need doctors, and that's it. That's all we need.
Okay.
We don't need many people. I mean, I think let's get it done.
Is this going to be a Maersk blockchain where Maersk owns it and then tries to get others to come on it and then it doesn't work? Is this going to be a J&J blockchain where you own it and then try to get others onto it? Or do you see this as a more fundamental base level infrastructure play?
If I may answer that question, we have to be realistic, right? And it's quite early on the blockchain, again, space. And it's clear that blockchain will bring value to the healthcare ecosystem. It's clear that there's some clear use cases that we can implement, but the implementation will be slow, will be gradual. The way we see it and do is we'll have phases. And those phases will be linked to the amount of data, patient data, that those use cases will manage. It will be linked to the number of stakeholders that are involved in those specific use cases. And more importantly, it will be linked to the power, the level of power you give to the patient of this data. So we will see this in this phase one, use cases related to repositories of assets in hospitals. We can see in the management of the directors of physicians. We can see supply chain use cases. Phase two, we might see something more related to the back end, which are really touching on the patient, right? Billing, payment, and so on. Later on in the future, the perfect scenario is this decentralized health record will be there. And all the stakeholders will be involved and will have a say in this system.
I'm not patient, so I don't have patience, me personally, right? I think we have the technology today, for example, like basic things. On my health data is stored on the blockchain on my phone right now, right? So okay. I put in my health data, I have it on the blockchain in my pocket. I think there are things that we could do today. I don't think we necessarily have to wait to a certain point. I think, for example, like I mentioned earlier in the last study about the Apple study or the heart study, that was all based on the blockchain thing where people collected data on your phones and we could run a study and build algorithms like within a short period of time. Like it's not. I think we need bold people and the right partners.
Correct.
Right.
I totally agree.
To get it done. Like I understand over time things get done. But.
Where do you see the inhibitors? So we've got a nice vision for a future that we want to get to. We've got a lot of willingness and a lot of interest between you two and other people in the audience. What are the inhibitors to success? Is it a regulatory piece? Is it a governance structure piece? Is it a financial piece? What needs to be unlocked to let this happen?
To answer that question, I hope all of you had a chance to listen. Mr. Osman Sultan, our CEO, keynote this morning. He mentioned something that's very true. When it comes to the challenges in blockchain, yes, there is a technology challenge, meaning that technology is still not there, right? But it's advancing really fast. It's progressing really, really fast day by day. And day by day, we come with new models to solve those issues. For example, scalability. Now we have this mix on-chain, off-chain kind of model that we can use for the things that we're trying to do today. So technology challenge is there, but for most of the things that we try to do is good enough. Regulation side. Yes, we don't have this comprehensive regulatory framework, those standards. They're not there. That's true. But we already have some guidance, and we have something that we can work with. And so sometimes it's good enough for that. Where we see the biggest challenge is on the societal factor, the human factor, the mindset. We haven't seen that change. Blockchain is about trust. It's about sharing of information. And you really need to fight those legacy thinking, especially when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry, when it comes to the healthcare industry. It's very sensitive data, right? So most of the work that I think we need to focus on for the next months and years will be on the change of mindset and everyone involved.
Have you encountered, in deploying your products, have you encountered any regulatory, governmental,
Don't get me wrong, they're there. But
oh no, I know they're there, but from J&J's side, have you come across those?
That's my life. We have a lot of lawyers, right? So I spend most of my time with lawyers for lunch and trying to convince them of ideas. I think we need to have forward-thinking lawyers, and so it's interesting in my role being global, as it's based on the country, has different laws in different countries and what you can do. But I think that there's some kind of progression taking place there. But there's definitely a movement in blockchain. You have companies like Citizen Health, for example, or Humanity.co that's fighting for the right of data ownership around blockchain. So those companies, we actually invest in companies like that. Actually, so as a pharma company, we don't just make drugs. We also have a venture capital group, right? So I also run a venture group where we actually invest in some of these companies. So we're not just, we might have projects we go on them, but we also invest in companies to build them up. So but regulatory is definitely a challenge.
Okay. Thank you both. I'm going to turn this out to the audience now and ask if there are any questions or burning topics that you'd like answered. If you raise your hand, we'll try to get I think we've got a microphone, do we? Does anyone have any questions for these two experts?
Answer all the questions.
No question. Please. Is there a microphone? Ah, there we go.
What sort of disease area that J&J is interested in? And the second part was for Do. What sort of infrastructure you think the regulation in UAE are making it, enabling us to start using blockchain?
So we are we're interested in everything. So we have a huge oncology unit. So we have an oncology arm. We have big in neuroscience. So we look at Alzheimer's, schizophrenia. Our newest drug is in depression, like I mentioned, which is the first drug in the whole space within in 20, 30 years. Right? You have drugs in that space. We look at heart failure. We're interested in Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. We're interested post-traumatic stress disorder. So if we look at all the mood disorders, we're very interested in that. We're interested in, but we also make devices, right? So we make devices for joints. We make those. We actually have a health and wellness department within J&J, which is actually very rare for a pharmaceutical company. We actually sell services to corporations, looking at health and wellness. We have, it's a pretty massive company, and I would say, if you pick a disease, we are interested. So there might be things that we're not interested in today, but I'm definitely out scoping molecules, and it is a business, and there's a need. We are definitely interested to go in.
Okay. Dr. Bassam, I think your question was related to the infrastructure that is needed for this to happen, right? So, and again, I think Dr. Aish mentioned it this morning that the first initiative they had was to build this platform to allow entities, government entities and private entities to jump into the blockchain wagon. That's where we have focused our work. We developed this platform, the blockchain platform is here for Do. Again, we want to provide this infrastructure, we want to provide the capabilities, we want to provide those functionalities that you need as an entity to create, to define those use cases and to build those applications on top of it. Now, the important thing with blockchain is that each use case, the kind of tools, the kind of protocol, the kind of consensus algorithm that you will use, it will depend on the kind of use case that you would implement. So we know that we need to be flexible enough to respond to those needs, whether it's in the healthcare system, whether it's in utilities, whether it's in the financial sector, we need to be flexible enough. And that was the spirit and the rationale behind our platform. Now, one more thing, when you talk about blockchain, you need to realize that blockchain, just like AI and other emerging technologies, they're not a solution end-to-end. They're both enabling solutions. So apart from the blockchain itself, which is an enabler, you have those IoT sensors, you have the RFID tags, you have many other parts of the puzzle that need to be there in order to deliver value to the end customer. So we want to be part of that. And Do Focus is actually, again, when you look at the healthcare system, to bring the patient back to the center of the equation. So,
no, I mean, what I was asking precisely whether there is any restrictions from the regulation authority about what to and what not to. Because J&J will not come and invest in something that health if we don't give them an access to a patient data. And so,
correct. I mean, if any application, if any platform touches any patient, there needs to be HIPAA compliance, right? And there are some other real standards that need to be covered. So that's there. And again, it's quite early, again, to know exactly what's going to be needed to deploy each specific use case. And the difference, and the reason is because each use case is different from one another. But your question is really valid and it's a really good one. We need to be ready for that. We need to be prepared to be compliant with all those regulations.
I'm going to ask Emmanuel a difficult question. Who is J&J's biggest competitor? And have you reached out to them to join your blockchain program?
I mean, I came out of Novartis, right? So I still feel like I'm a Novartian, kind of, right? So I have very good friends on Novartis still. I think in the future of healthcare, I think the two companies that I think are highly positioned, Novartis and J&J. I think with Vas, the new CEO of Novartis, I know Vas personally. I think he has the right vision of where he's going. So I think.
Do you see yourselves coming together on a common blockchain initiative?
So on a large scale of things, we're all the same kind of. So we do a lot of deals. So like Xarelto, for example. Xarelto is a drug that Johnson & Johnson does, but we have joint venture groups, right? We do a lot of joint ventures, and we own certain rights in the US or own different rights in Europe. So in the large scale, it's the same. On the groundwork on science, yeah, we work very closely.
But you all must be hurting from mispricing or fake drugs. It seems that it would be a common pain in the pharma industry.
Yes, no, it is definitely a common pain. So I am actually a big advocate for the idea of having a consortium where we have all the pharma companies together. There are a couple of those going on. I'm part of a group that comprises of Bayer, people from Novartis, Merck, that we are guiding. We're actually discussing with the FDA and Health Canada on how to actually define policy around this, or how to regulate this.
So other than Dubai, who are obviously a shining light showing a good way in this, which other countries do you think are going to be places to deploy blockchain architecture for pharma next?
Estonia, I'm very interested in Estonia, right? I'm looking at taking a trip down there. I'm not really that fancy about Europe per se. Okay. Because the rules of GDPR is too strict.
Yeah.
For now, so that's like a battle you need to fight. So I'm interested in China.
Okay.
But I'll be very happy to do something done in Dubai. I like the weather here too, so yeah. There's no snow.
Okay. Is this us? Okay. Is there any final burning issue with the audience? Otherwise, we'll close. Okay. Well, thank you very much.